The knife caught the light as it slid free from his sleeve, a shimmer of cold steel under the green glow of the lecture hall. Every alien eye in the room froze. The hiss of breath, the soft pulse of their bioluminescent skin, the hum of the oxygen regulators. All of it stopped the instant the blade appeared. And yet, she smiled. Lyra didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't even raise her voice. Just sat there, her fingers resting lightly on the edge of the desk, eyes locked on the trembling hand holding the knife. The hand belonged to Ralak, a towering creature from the Clithian colonies, muscles like woven cables beneath translucent skin. His spines rattled in agitation. He thought he was making a point. He had no idea how close he was to making a mistake he'd never lived to regret. The others whispered in clicks and hums. No one dared to intervene, because no one intervened when a Deathworlder was involved. They'd all heard stories, whispers about humans, the species that came from a planet so violent that their own weather could kill them, whose oceans boiled with predators, whose forests breathed toxins, whose gravity crushed bones of lesser beings. Deathworld, they called it. And yet, somehow, humans thrived there, evolved there, laughed there. The galaxy admired them and feared them. Lyra had transferred into the Intergalactic Institute of Xenopsychology 2 months ago. She was the only human in the entire campus. Everyone thought she was strange, quiet, too calm, her heart rate never rising even during combat simulations. Professors called her brilliant. Her classmates called her unsettling. And now, as Ralak stepped closer, his knife trembling inches from her face, they were about to learn why. "You mock us," Ralak hissed, his voice vibrating through 3 layers of vocal membranes. "You call yourself superior, a Deathworlder. Show us what that means." Lyra's smile widened slightly, on not arrogance, not fear, something else. Pity, maybe. "I didn't say we were superior," she said softly, her voice carrying through the silence. "I said we were adaptable. There's a difference." He lunged. In less than the blink of an eye, her hand shot up, not toward the blade, but toward him. She caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted. There was a sound like dry twigs snapping underfoot. The knife fell, clattering on the desk, its metallic ring echoing through the stunned classroom. Then the scream, low, guttural, painful, vibrated through the walls. She stood, still calm, still watching him. "Lesson 1, she said quietly. "Never bring a blade to a species that invented fear." Nobody moved. Even the air seemed afraid to stir. Professor Shnar, a floating jelly form of psychic intelligence, drifted closer, his tendrils quivering. "Ms. Lyra," he began cautiously, "violence is strictly prohibited in this institution." "It wasn't violence," she interrupted, turning back toward her desk. "It was instruction." The words hung there, heavier than the silence that followed. That's when the security drones arrived, humming spheres of chrome, weapons primed, sensors flashing red. They surrounded her instantly. She didn't resist. She didn't even look up. Ralak was on the floor, clutching his twisted arm, black ichor leaking between his fingers. He looked up at her, eyes burning with humiliation and something new, understanding. "Humans," he whispered through his pain. "You're monsters." Lyra looked over her shoulder, that same small smile touching her lips again. "No. We're survivors. Monsters are just what survival looks like when you're not used to it." The drones escorted her out. The rest of the class sat frozen, trying to process what they had just witnessed. One of them, a slender Avriani with translucent wings, whispered. She didn't even look angry. "She didn't need to," another murmured. "Deathworlders don't fight because they want to win, they fight because losing isn't an option." Outside, through the glass walls, you could see the twin suns of Atraxis casting long shadows across the academy courtyard. Lyra walked between them calmly, her reflection split between gold and red light, like 2 worlds in conflict within the same being. Later that evening, security footage of the incident would leak onto the interstellar net. Billions would watch it, frame by frame, the way her eyes seemed to dilate before she moved, the impossible speed of her reaction, the exact precision of her counterattack. Some would call her a threat, others, a legend. But the truth? The truth was darker than anyone suspected, because Lyra wasn't just any human. She'd been trained since birth, not as a soldier, but as something else entirely. Something the galaxy had outlawed centuries ago. And now, her secret was out. The footage spread like wildfire through the galaxy. 12 billion views within the first hour. Every network, every species, every back-channel forum dissecting the same 7 seconds of movement. The twist, the grip, the impossible calm. They replayed it over and over, slowing the footage frame by frame until it almost looked unreal. But it wasn't unreal. It was Lyra. And what the galaxy didn't yet know was that she'd done it on purpose. They escorted her to the council chamber, a vaulted sphere of mirrored glass hanging over the upper stratosphere of Atraxis Prime. Below, clouds rolled like oceans of liquid metal. Lightning stitched the horizon. Inside, the 12 counselors floated in a halo of light, their forms half seen, half imagined. The governing intelligence of 1,000 species. The lead voice, a resonant tone that belonged to something more energy than flesh, said, "Human Lyra, you have violated the interspecies conduct code. Do you deny this?" Lyra looked up slowly. "No," she said. "But if I hadn't acted, a Clithian student would have gutted me in front of your cameras." The voice pulsed, impatient. "The footage shows you escalated." "I ended it," she interrupted. "There's a difference." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A flicker of irritation radiated through the psychic field. Lyra stood alone on the obsidian platform, her hands clasped behind her back, her face still unreadable. "You call us violent," she continued. "You call us dangerous. But tell me, how many of your civilizations would survive a single day on our world? Acid rain, beasts with knives for teeth, firestorms that erase continents, and we still built cities. We still loved. We still dreamed. You study us like curiosities, but you don't understand what it means to come from a place that never wanted you alive." The silence that followed was electric. Then one of the counselors, an elder from the Seraphian cluster, leaned forward, its translucent skull flickering with thought. "We understand more than you believe. The question, human, is whether your kind intends to teach or to conquer." Lyra smiled again, that faint, unsettling curve of her lips. "Maybe both." The words rippled through the chamber like a shockwave. Moments later, they dismissed her, suspended indefinitely, pending investigation. But that was exactly what she'd been waiting for. The isolation, the freedom to move without eyes on her. Because Lyra had come to Atraxis with a mission, long before the knife ever appeared in class. That night, she moved through the dormitory corridors like a shadow, the echo of her boots swallowed by the hum of the power conduits. She reached the restricted section of the archive, a place where even the faculty rarely ventured. A door of living metal responded to her touch, scanning the microscopic pulse of her DNA. The locks dissolved. Inside, the air was cold and thick. Shelves of stasis crystals glimmered like frozen stars, each one storing centuries of alien history. Lyra went straight to one marked in the human language. Project Thanatos. Her fingers brushed the crystal, and the memories poured out. A planet on fire. Human soldiers in exosuits standing in the ashes of an alien city. A voice, old, broken, human, whispering, "If the Deathworlders ever lose their leash, the galaxy will burn." Lyra gasped and stepped back. Her reflection in the glass shimmered, split by light. She saw her own face, and behind it, the faint silhouette of someone else. The woman who had trained her. The woman who had disappeared 10 years ago. Commander Rhea Dawson. Her mother. Lyra clenched her fists. So that was it. They hadn't sent her here to learn alien psychology. They'd sent her here to finish something her mother started. The whisper of movement made her freeze. From the far side of the room, shadows stirred. Security drones. But not the same kind that had escorted her earlier. These had no insignia, no serial tags. Their weapons hummed with a frequency she recognized. Human tech. Her pulse quickened and the first real fear she'd felt in years. Who is this? You already know. The drones activated their stunners. Lyra dove behind a console as blue arcs of energy sliced through the dark. She moved fast, rolling, calculating, counting shots. Then, silence. She rose, pressed her hand against the console, and triggered the environmental lock. A wall of vacuum sealed the room, pulling the drones apart in a storm of fragments. When the air stabilized, she stood alone, breathing hard. The voice came again, softer now, almost sympathetic. You can't stop it, Lyra. The Deathworld Protocol is already active. The galaxy will see what humans truly are. The line went dead. Lyra stared out through the observation window. Beyond it, the twin suns of Atraxis blazed against the void, and for the first time their light looked cold. Somewhere far below, news outlets were already broadcasting her suspension. She was being painted as dangerous, unstable, a threat, and yet maybe that was exactly what she needed them to believe, because the real war hadn't started yet. Night on Atraxis Prime was a strange kind of silence. A silence made not of peace, but pressure. The sky glowed green with charged particles from the twin suns, and the towers of the Academy cast blades of shadow across the atmosphere shield. Below, the ocean shimmered like liquid glass, and somewhere within that shimmering reflection, Lyra disappeared. She moved through the industrial underbelly of the city, the part the tourists never saw. Broken lifts, dripping conduits, black market circuits glowing in alien colors. Her boots left faint echoes on the metal as she slipped into the noise of 1,000 forgotten lives. She needed to vanish before the council decided to make her an example. But vanishing wasn't easy when every surveillance node in the quadrant was tuned to your DNA. She found cover in a derelict hangar, its walls scrawled with graffiti in a dozen alien tongues. The place smelled of rust and plasma oil. A shadow moved, a short figure with eyes that glowed like molten copper. You picked a bad time to come down here, Deathworlder, it hissed. I didn't come to hide, Lyra replied. I came to find you. The alien paused, its spines flattened. You know my name? I know you were in the human archives during the Thanatos project. You extracted something before it was buried. A flicker of recognition and fear. The creature turned away, muttering in its own language. Then reluctantly, it said, You shouldn't know that name. Thanatos was erased, purged from all systems. Not all, Lyra said quietly, pulling a small metallic shard from her jacket. It glimmered with etched circuitry. I found the other half of the key. The alien stared at it, trembling. That key doesn't unlock knowledge, it unlocks extinction. For a moment, the hangar was utterly still. Then the alien sighed. Follow me. They descended deeper, into the sublevels beneath Atraxis, where the air was thick with heat and static. Finally, they reached a massive, sealed vault. The alien pressed its palm to the console, and the wall opened like the mouth of a beast. Inside, suspended in magnetic stasis, was something alive. At first, Lyra thought it was a being, humanoid, wrapped in tendrils of light. But then she realized it wasn't alive yet. It was growing, shifting. Its form flickered between species, copying, absorbing, rewriting. The alien's voice trembled. This is the real Deathworld Protocol, not a weapon, a mirror, built by humans to replicate the apex traits of every species it encountered. Your kind didn't want to dominate. You wanted to evolve beyond everything. Lyra's stomach twisted. That's not possible. We didn't have this technology. You didn't, the alien interrupted. But you found someone who did. It turned toward her, eyes glowing brighter. Your mother wasn't working for the human government, Lyra. She was working with something else, something that wasn't human anymore. The words hit like a physical blow. Lyra staggered back, staring at the being in the stasis field. And for the first time, she saw it clearly. The shape, the face. It was almost human. And yet, not. The same eyes, the same jawline. It looked like her. Her heart pounded. That's impossible. The alien looked away. Your mother didn't disappear, Lyra. She transferred. Lyra's voice shook. Transferred into what? The alien met her gaze. Into that. The world seemed to tilt. The air was suddenly too thin, too sharp. Lyra's mind flashed with fragments of memory, dreams of static, her mother whispering, "Survival is evolution, Lyra. Remember that." She stepped closer to the stasis chamber. The being inside opened its eyes and smiled. "Hello, my daughter," it said, the voice a distorted echo of her mother's. Lyra stumbled back, the shard slipping from her fingers. The chamber lights flared white-hot. The alien screamed, covering its eyes as the field collapsed, and the figure inside stepped free, skin of silver light, eyes burning with ancient hunger. "I have waited," it said, looking at Lyra. "Waited for you to understand. The galaxy fears humans because it should, but they haven't seen what comes after humans." Lyra's hand moved to her sidearm. "You're not her." The figure tilted its head. "And yet, you're not entirely you. Do you think evolution stops with one generation?" Something stirred under Lyra's skin, a pulse, a vibration in her bones. She felt her muscles tighten, her senses sharpen. For a fleeting second, she understood the being's words. The Deathworld Protocol wasn't just a project, it was a transformation, a chain of code written into DNA. Her mother hadn't left her behind, she'd activated her. Outside, alarms erupted. The Council had detected the energy surge. Drone fleets rose into the atmosphere, lights flashing crimson. Lyra turned to the alien. "Seal the exits, don't let anyone in." "What are you doing?" it cried. "Ending the lesson," she said softly. As the stasis vault exploded in blinding light, the being laughed, a sound that echoed through the vault like thunder. And when the smoke cleared, there was no sign of Lyra, only the shattered remains of the stasis field, and a single phrase burned into the floor in her handwriting. "You wanted to understand fear, now you will." The explosion wasn't the end, it was the beginning. When the alarms finally died, when the plasma fires stopped eating through the sublevels of Atraxis, there was only silence and light. Blinding, silver light that moved like smoke, alive, thinking. The rescue teams that entered the ruins never made it back. Their transmissions cut out one by one, replaced by static that almost sounded like breathing. 3 days later, the Council quarantined the entire city. Orbiting ships sealed the atmosphere in a containment grid. No one in, no one out. The official report called it a biotech meltdown. But in the darker corners of the network, where forbidden footage traded hands like currency, a different story spread. The Deathworlder lived. Lyra was seen, or something that looked like her, walking through the fire. Her eyes reflected nothing. Her heartbeat, according to thermal scans, was gone. The alien who had helped her, the one from the hangar, survived long enough to send one encrypted transmission to a pirate broadcast station. His message lasted only 12 seconds. "She's not human anymore, and she's not alone." Then silence. Weeks passed. The Council sent ships. None returned. It wasn't until the 4th week that a long-range drone finally transmitted visual data back to orbit. The image was almost too sharp to believe. The city of Atraxis Prime had changed. The architecture was twisted, as if the buildings themselves were growing, metallic veins threading through glass and stone. The streets pulsed faintly with light. The entire city had become alive. And at the center of it all, standing on the roof of the academy beneath a storm of twin suns, was Lyra. Her hair shimmered like molten wire. Her skin bore a faint lattice of light that pulsed with every word she spoke, though no one could hear it. The visual showed her raising a hand toward the drone before the feed cut. 2 days later, every network in the quadrant was hijacked. No one knew how. It was like the universe blinked. And then every screen, every terminal, every data channel carried the same transmission. Lyra's face appeared, calm, human, almost. "You've studied us for centuries," she said, her voice echoing across worlds. "Measured our pulse, tested our fear. You called us Deathworlders as if survival was a crime. But you never understood what that meant." Her hair shimmered like molten wire. Her skin bore a faint lattice of light that pulsed with every word she spoke, though no one could hear it. The visual showed her raising a hand toward the drone before the feed cut. 2 days later, every network in the quadrant was hijacked. No one knew how. It was like the universe blinked. And then every screen, every terminal, Every data channel carried the same transmission. Lyra's face appeared, calm, human, almost. "You've studied us for centuries," she said, her voice echoing across worlds. "Measured our pulse, tested our fear. You called us Deathworlders as if survival was a crime. But you never understood what that meant." The feed flickered. Flashes of earth storms, volcanic eruptions, oceans boiling beneath lightning, humans laughing in rain, fighting, building, living. "Deathworlds don't make monsters," she continued. "They make survivors, and survivors adapt. You taught us your technologies, your biology, your languages, and we listened, we learned, we changed." Behind her, the skyline of Atraxis pulsed brighter, spreading like a heartbeat through the city. My mother called it Thanatos, a merging of everything that endures, the next step, not conquest, not extinction, continuity. Her eyes lifted, glowing silver. "The galaxy isn't ready for what comes next, but it doesn't matter. Evolution never waits for permission." Then the broadcast cut to black. The Council scrambled to respond, launching planetary blockades, sending fleets to contain what they called the Thanatos Singularity. None succeeded. Every ship that entered the orbit of Atraxis lost contact within hours. And then one by one, other planets began to change, quietly, slowly, seeds of silver light blooming beneath their surfaces. Systems went dark, communications vanished. Some said Lyra was spreading, through data, through DNA, through thought. Others believed she wasn't spreading at all, that she was awakening something that had always been there, buried in every species that had ever learned to fear. Months later, a distress signal arrived from the edge of the galaxy. A ship adrift, crew missing. The recording was simple, shaky, human. "If anyone hears this, we found her. Or something like her." She said the lesson isn't over. She said death is just the pause between evolutions. The transmission ended with a sound, faint, distant, like laughter inside static. And then silence again. No one has seen Lyra since. Some say she became the city itself. Others whisper she's still walking among the stars, testing the limits of what it means to be alive. But one thing is certain. Wherever she went, the universe followed. Because survival isn't just instinct, it's contagion. And on the worlds that learned fear, something new had begun to grow.